2025 will be my year of fighting for body justice, and I'm bringing all of you with me.
Just when I thought TikTok could not get more delulu, y'all outdo yourselves again. So like I mentioned, we're going to start with a little bit of levity, but it's also kind of disturbing because activists are now demanding a Bill of Rights for fat people. Yes, seriously, I'm not twisting your leg. I'm not making this up. This is a real thing, and the charge is being led, perhaps unsurprisingly, by TikTok fat positivity activist Jay Bay. Here's her video introducing the petition that she's circulating, advocating for legislation establishing this Bill of Rights for fat individuals.
I'm dedicating 2025 to fighting for the Fat Equality Bill of Rights, and I want you to be part of this revolution.
Sweetie, maybe you should dedicate 2025 to getting healthy and losing some weight before you eat yourself into an early grave, which you're currently on track to do. Just my 2 cents.
Every day, fat individuals face barriers that nobody should have to live with. Whether it's being turned away from a doctor's office.
What? Doctor's offices don't turn you away if you're overweight. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not a thing. In fact, they probably will treat you because now they might say things you don't like. They might tell you you need to lose weight for your health because it's very unhealthy to be morbidly obese, but they don't just turn people away from doctor's offices saying, "Oh, you're too fat. We're not going to treat you here." I'm pretty sure that's not a thing.
Not fitting into seats on public transportation or being unfairly judged in the workplace.
Oof. I mean, at some point, if you're not fitting into seats that aren't particularly small, the problem might be you and not the seat. What are we supposed to do? Reconstruct every bus so that the seat can fit a 500-pound person just so that once in a while somebody who of that extraordinary size comes around, they can have a seat that accommodates them? I mean, can already probably just sit in 2 seats, I guess. But again, it's like, to me, the more pressing issue is how can we help you lose the weight and have healthier habits and save yourself from an early death? Like, that's the real issue, not how do we make bus seats bigger so people who are 600 pounds can fit in them. Like, that should not be how we're trying to approach this issue, accepting that outcome. That's not something that people in other countries have. And while you shouldn't be mistreated in the workplace or anywhere or treated with cruelty just because you're overweight, legislation can't stop people from judging you. We're not going to be able to police people's thoughts and opinions, nor should we.
These aren't just inconveniences. They're human rights violations.
That's an interesting definition of human rights. And I don't know, it's kind of rich to me to throw in you not fitting into a bus seat into the same category, human rights violations of people being censored, oppressed, slaughtered, harmed in so many ways. Those might not actually be similar things. My hot take.
The Fat Equality Bill of Rights is a critical step towards changing all of that. It's a set of protections designed to ensure fat people are treated with the same respect, dignity, and access to basic rights as everybody else. And it's time to make this a reality. Just like the civil rights movements that have reshaped history, we're fighting for a world where fat people are treated with fairness, not just tolerance. This is about the right to exist without fear of discrimination, exclusion, or ridicule. It's a civil rights issue, and it's time for change.
Okay. I can't be the only one who finds it somewhat ridiculous to compare being morbidly obese to civil rights. Babe, being black isn't a choice. MLK Jr. did not dream of a world where nobody would ever face accountability for the consequences of their own decisions. Like, again, to conflate, and this is the whole issue I have with this fat rights movement that this individual and so many others push, it conflates what are immutable characteristics that people can't control and didn't choose, which we basically agree it's wrong to mistreat or discriminate against somebody for something they literally have no control over, like the color of their skin or like their sexuality or something like that, that is not a choice, isn't something they have control over. But we agree pretty much that it is okay in many circumstances to hold people's decisions against them, to treat them differently because of the things they choose to do. And that's really more of the category that being this morbidly obese falls into, with perhaps the rarest of exceptions for people with very rare medical conditions that make it almost impossible to lose weight. But like, that's not the vast majority of these people. You don't end up 500-600 pounds by accident. And in most cases, you can see from their documented lifestyles, it is because of their choices. So again, to try to conflate this is almost offensive to the actual civil rights movement and to all these people who were judged and mistreated for things beyond their control, that you're now suggesting that people treating you differently because of the choices you've made is the same as that. It's not.
2025 will be my year of fighting for body justice, and I'm bringing all of you with me. I'm committing to this fight because I believe in a world where fat people are equal, and accessible isn't just possible, it's necessary. So let's make it happen. Sign the petition, share your stories, and let's push for the Fat Equality Bill of Rights to become a law, because your body deserves justice. We deserve justice. So join me. Head to change.org/fatequality and let's make 2025 the year we change everything for everybody.
This is real. This is actually a thing. Y'all, body justice. And I consider myself up on the woke speak. I follow all the left wingers. That's a new phrase for me. I actually haven't heard that one. That is not on my bingo card of woke buzzwords. But it's an interesting concept of justice, because what is justice and what is injustice? Well, when we talk about justice, we're typically talking about things being fair, right? Having everybody being treated with fairness. We are not talking about, when we say justice, everyone always being treated exactly the same. For example, it is just that in a criminal justice system, somebody who is convicted of drunk driving goes to jail, but somebody who didn't drunk drive, didn't commit any crime, doesn't go to jail. They're not treated the same. They're treated justly. In the same way, one of her big concerns is that, for example, fat people should get a second, even a third free seat on an airplane if they don't fit into one. But that isn't justice. If I want extra room because I am tall and I have long legs, I have to upgrade to business or first class. Justice is everybody paying for the space that they take up on the plane. The same way that a mother who has a young child who sits on her lap only pays for one ticket because she's only taking up one seat, even though there's two people. So the whole concept here is just kind of a perverse notion of justice, where holding people accountable for the consequences of their decisions or treating them differently when they are different is now inherently evil or wrong. And I just don't buy that. But I was curious because, you guys know my background's in policy and politics. I cover policy. What is this legislation that she wants exactly? So I went and I found the petition and I found exactly what she's calling for with her Fat Bill of Rights. And we're going to go through it because it's actually like very bizarre and sort of sinister. The first thing on this Fat Equality Bill of Rights is that fat individuals must be protected from discrimination in all aspects of life. This includes protections against discrimination based on body size in healthcare, employment, housing, education, and public services. Fat individuals should be able to access these areas of life without fear of bias, mistreatment, or exclusion due to their body size. Legal recourse must be available for those facing discrimination, ensuring that fat individuals can seek justice and hold accountable those who engage in harmful practices. Maybe this is a hot take, but I don't think that fatness should be added as a category into anti-discrimination law, which is what this person is suggesting. Anti-discrimination law should be about public services or government agencies not being able to discriminate against people because of their innate characteristics, their immutable demographic traits, the things they didn't choose and can't change. Morbid obesity does not fall into that category. I also question what this means in practice. I mean, are overweight people really facing housing discrimination? I find it hard to believe that a lot of landlords out there are refusing to rent because the person is overweight. Maybe that exists somewhere, but I'm not sure why they would do that. Their money's as good as anybody else. And in some of these areas, what fat activists and the kind of people supporting a fat bill of rights view as discrimination is actually just dealing with factual reality. So for a lot of what they call, for example, fat discrimination in healthcare, which is one of the categories listed here, is just addressing the facts that fat people have different medical needs. Being morbidly obese or even obese is very bad for your health, and treatments and remedies are in order. All of that, many instances where doctors would treat patients accordingly, would be deemed weight discrimination by activists under this kind of thing. So you'd be tying the hands of healthcare professionals with laws and potential lawsuits over their ability to treat one of the biggest threats to human life and one of the leading causes of preventable deaths in the United States. What a great idea. The second thing on the Fat Bill of Rights is the quote, Right to Fat Accessibility Act. We demand the establishment of a Fat Accessibility Act similar to the Americans with Disabilities Act, ensuring equal access to all areas of public life for fat individuals. This act will set universal standards for accessibility in healthcare, transportation, education, employment, and public spaces, requiring size-inclusive seating, equipment, accommodations, and services. It will prohibit discrimination based on body size, ensuring fat individuals are treated with dignity and respect in all sectors. Okay, this one pisses me off for a couple reasons. It always really grinds my gears when they do this. These fat activists compare themselves to disabled people. My dude, you are not the same as somebody who was born needing a wheelchair or somebody who was blinded by an accident or born blind. That is not the same as you being unable or unwilling to put down the fork. And that's so insensitive and actually offensive to the plight of disabled people, who of course need to be accommodated and should never be mistreated, and any accommodations should be made so they can participate. That's not the same as you, because you max out your rewards points at KFC, the whole world having to accommodate you. Don't conflate those two things. That is outrageous. And what does this mean exactly? Universal accessibility will be mandated in all walks of public life. So every seat on a bus has to be able to fit a 600-pound person. It's just going to be wildly inefficient. I don't know what's going on there. And also, what about weight limits that are for safety reasons? Is it going to be illegal to have weight limits on carnival rides or roller coasters at the amusement park? Because I won't be getting on any of them if the actual physics of needing to restrict the weight involved in something is deemed discriminatory or bigoted. Like, to some extent, we're just dealing with realities here, and you're trying to criminalize that. Now, some of what else is in this is kind of redundant with the things we've already talked about, but I do want to talk about this one, right to healthcare equity, and especially the last sentence. So obviously, there's some things like she wants wider MRI machines, larger hospital gowns, and look, obviously, I think they need to be able to accommodate overweight patients because they need medical care. But this last sentence stuck out to me. Medical professionals must also undergo mandatory weight bias training to ensure equitable treatment. Weight bias training. The problem with this is, like, if all the training said was don't be mean to fat people or don't belittle them or insult them, like, I'd have no issue with that. Nobody should be treated unkindly, especially people who are just trying to seek healthcare or trying to improve. But the issue is that their idea of weight bias includes things like being morbidly obese is bad for you and is something you should change. They would call that weight bias. This is going to cause heart problems for you. You're going to have medical issues from this. This could shorten your life if you keep eating this way and being sedentary and gaining weight. Those are things doctors need to say to patients. Truths people need to hear that they would label weight bias and potentially make illegal. Again, I'm never going to be on board with tying the hands of doctors to address a public health crisis. This one I found interesting. Right to employment equity. Fat individuals must have equal opportunities in hiring, promotion, and salary, ensuring an inclusive and fair workplace. Now, look, I don't think you should hold people's weight against them for a job that has no physical requirements or nothing to do with it. But what about just the pragmatism of this? One, I don't know that needs to be a law, but two, like, okay, so should police officers be allowed to be 500 pounds? The fact that they might need to chase a suspect? Oh, well, don't be a bigot. What about professional athletics? Is it discriminatory if they don't give fat people equal representation on teams? What about jobs that require manual labor? Can people who are confined to a wheelchair because they eat so much, do they have a right to equitable hiring in those fields? Like, the whole thing is totally unworkable and impractical, and they just don't seem to grapple with this at all. A right to clothing accessibility. All retailers must carry a full size range in stores, including up to a 7X or US size 40 if available online. Brands must provide a comprehensive size range in brick and mortar stores, ensuring that fat individuals have access to the same variety of clothing in store as they do online. Additionally, all clothing sizes must be priced equally with no discrepancies in pricing based on size. That one at the end there seems particularly unreasonable to me. I mean, if you need a size 40, a lot more fabric and material is involved in that than a size 10. So is it really so unreasonable to price it slightly higher? And it doesn't make sense to force stores to carry things. I mean, they do it now based on what they regularly need and what sells. It's not like, for example, I'm a size 14 foot. I can't fit into 13s. I've tried for a long time, but that's where most stores cut off. Men's shoes is at a size 13. So I always have to online order them. Does that like make me a victim? Am I being discriminated against? No, it's just that there aren't a lot of people who need a size 14 shoe, so it doesn't make sense for stores to stock them. And it's not that big a deal that I order them online. I somehow have survived without becoming a victim's rights advocate. This whole thing is just so exhausting to me. And it's another reminder of how just the perversity that results when you make victimhood a form of valor and social currency, and you encourage people to view themselves as helpless and oppressed rather than as individuals with agency who can make their lives better. And you kind of glamorize this victimhood life approach where everything's your fault, not your fault, and society is just bigoted and discriminates against you, and blah, blah, blah. You end up with this insanity. And this is not just ridiculous. I really do think it's sinister, because obesity, particularly morbid obesity, is killing Americans. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are loved and are valuable and are so important in their communities and their families and whose lives are precious are dying far earlier than they need to or they would naturally because of morbid obesity. And we have activists trying to enshrine, protect, and encourage it as if it is just, a neutral way of being. It is deadly. And what you are doing, seems to me part of a death cult. I'm sorry, that's just how I see it. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and do hit that like button while you're at it. By the way, make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. A lot of you watch my videos but aren't actually subscribed, and thanks for watching a little bit of side eye. So just take a second to subscribe.